Welcome to the Preliminary Cost Estimating Tool Training Series. In this segment, we'll be developing an estimate for an example project using the Preliminary Cost Estimating tool. Okay, so we're going to get started with an estimate for an example project here. I'm going to click our Enable Content to start out. We're going to head over to the Data Entry tab. We'll start out by filling out the worksheet quality control information. Going to fill in calculated by and the date. You can add some notes if you'd like. Put in our PIN, select a region, county, project description. Make that. So we want to make sure we fill out all of this information that we've just done here. It's utilized throughout the workbook for calculations, come up with appropriate item numbers and quantities and project costs. So let's move on and enter in our roadways here. I've already filled out a Google Earth KMZ file for this. If you want to know how to set that up, you can check out our Estimating with Google Earth training video. But for this example, we'll just get right into it. So we're working on Abbott Road, Route 179 and California Road. So we're doing some intersection improvements here at this intersection, as well as some pavement rehabilitation and signal work along this whole corridor here. So we're going to hop over to our traffic data viewer. I've already have it opened up to our project location here, so we're going to take a look and grab our roadway information. So let's start out by filling in our roadway name. Abbott Road, New York 179. Our AADT is going to be 25,784. Percent trucks. I'm going to go with 3%. Going to go with no access control, functional classification, 14. Urban principal, arterial, other. And that's it for Abbott Road. We'll click the add button. One thing I would suggest doing with this, if you have your snipping tool here, just grab a snip of this and save it in your project folder, just to keep a backup of where you got these numbers from. So now we're going to enter in California Road. Go back to our traffic data viewer. So we have ADT 3238. 100% trucks, we'll use 4%. No access control. And our functional classification is 17, urban collector. And we're done setting up our roadways. Let's move on to our pavement sections. So going back to Google Earth here, we'll just go from west to east here, starting with Melamine Lay Area 1. So we're going to have 940 feet, 6 lanes with no shoulders, and we're on Abbott Road. We have HMA pavement, Melamine Lay, undivided. From our KMZ file, we know this is 940 feet. We have no shoulders. We're going to do 6 lanes times 12, going to be 72 feet. And no shoulder on the other side. We're not going to remove existing material. If we were doing reconstruction, we could include this, but for mill and inlay, it's already accounting for the milling, so it's not needed to remove existing material for purposes of this estimate. And we are not going to include an underdrain here either. And that's our first section. Let's add another one. So we'll click on our next segment here. We've got NY179 box widening, 4 lanes existing, adding a center turn lane with box widening to the north, new curb and sidewalk on the north, 530 feet of an 8-foot shoulder on the southeast side of California Road. For our purposes, we'll just call it an 8-foot shoulder for our whole length here. So we're going to have 880 feet box widening, and we're going to use our final pavement condition here. So 4 lanes existing, and we're adding a turn lane, so it's going to be 5 lanes total, which is going to give us 60 feet. Shoulder on the left. Going to be 4 feet. And then we'll call it an 8-foot shoulder on the right. So all of our box widening is going to be to the north. So we'll take our widening width, which is 12 feet, plus the existing shoulder width, which is, we'll call it 4 feet, for a total of 16 feet. And we are not doing any widening to the south, so we'll put a 0 for the other side. For this segment, we will put in removal of existing material, and I'm going to put in our box widening width as the removal width, so 16 feet. And we will include an underdrain just on the north side for this segment, so we'll put number of underdrains 1. Okay, let's move on to our next segment here, which is Melamine Lay 2, 550 feet long. We have 4 lanes with 4-foot shoulders on the north and 8-foot shoulders on the south. So we'll hop back in here. I'm going to add a copy, since this is already an undivided Melamine Lay section. I'm going to click the plus on that one because it will copy down all of this information and we won't have to change everything. So I believe it was 550 feet, yep, 550 feet. So we have a 4-foot shoulder on the north, we have 4 lanes so that's 48 feet, and an 8-foot shoulder on the south. We are not removing existing material or including an underdrain because we have a Melamine Lay section here. And we'll move on to our next segment. It's going to be this blue segment here. So we have Melamine Lay 3, so we have 6,300 feet, 4-lane divided highway, 4-foot inside shoulders, 8-foot outside shoulders, no median work. So we'll hop back over here. We'll make a copy of our Melamine Lay. Highway type, we're going to change that to divided. And we have 6,300 feet. So for our dimensions, our outside shoulder A. So this A and G will be our outside shoulders, C and E are our inside shoulders. So we have 8, 2 lanes in each direction, so we have 24 there. 4 foot, 4 foot, 24, and 8. We're going to exclude the D since there's no median work. You would want to use this if you have like a paved median that matches your regular pavement section. And then you could put a width in here for calculation purposes, but not removing existing material, and we are not including underdrain. And we just have one more segment of work here on California Road. So we have 2 lanes existing with 4-foot shoulders both sides, add a turn lane with box widening to the east. So we're going to end up with 3 lanes with 4-foot shoulders on each side. So we'll copy this box widening one. And we'll change this drop down to California Road. Just going to check the length here, 400 feet. So we have 4-foot shoulder. We're going to have 3 lanes total, which is 36 feet. The 4-foot shoulder on the right. On the left, we're not box widening. It's all going to be to the right. So we're going to have 16 feet to the right. That's our 12-foot new travel lane, plus the existing shoulder width, because we'll have to reconstruct the shoulder, giving us the 16 feet. And we will remove existing material here, the box widening width, which is 16 feet, but we will not include an underdrain for this road. And with that, we're through our whole pavement section, and we're going to move on to traffic signals. So we have our first intersection, which is mile strip in Abbott Road here. So I'll put that in. We're going to do full replacement on this one. We have 4 approaches, 4 crosswalks, 2 signal poles. There is an existing signal. And let's count the approach lanes for the intersection. So we have 3 plus 4, that's 7, plus another 3, that's 10, plus 4, it's going to be a total of 14 lanes approaching this intersection. And we'll move on to our next traffic signal. So we're at Milestrip and Amelia here. So we'll put that in. Let's say we're doing detection and PEDs for this one. We have 3 approaches. We're going to end up with a crosswalk here and a crosswalk here, so that's 2. We're going to have 3 signal poles. 1, 2, 3. There is an existing signal. Then we'll count up our approach lanes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll have 10 there. And we'll move on to our next one. So here we've got a signal at the ramp. So this one's going to be detection only. So we have 2 approaches, no crosswalks, and 1 signal pole. And we'll count up our approach lanes. Going to be 4 total. Oops. 4 total. And then we'll move on to the next one. So we're at Milestrip and Sterling Drive. Oh, I forgot to change the name of our last intersection. So that's Milestrip Road at US 219 off-ramp. Okay, back to the Sterling Drive signal. So this one we have 4 approaches, no crosswalks, detection only. We have 3 signal poles, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to count up our approach lanes. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we'll put 13 in there for number of lanes. And we'll add another intersection here. And this is going to be our final one. This one's going to be PEDs only. So we have Milestrip Road at Southwestern Boulevard. Going to change this to PEDs only. We have 4 approaches, 4 crosswalks, just 2 signal poles on this one. Existing signal, yes, and then we'll count up our approach lanes here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13's already in there, so that's good. And that's going to be it for our signal section. Let's add a little bit of earthwork here. So we're going to come down to this segment here for our proposed sidewalk. New sidewalk. So we happen to know that we have an existing ditch here where this sidewalk is. That goes roughly from here to here. So we'll call it 1,300 feet. And we're going to do a trapezoid fill because we're going to be filling in that ditch. We'll call it a 1-on-2 slope because it is protected most of the way for 1,300 feet. Both sides no, this is only one side of the road, so we're going to say no. Depth, you know, the better practice here would be to go do a bit of a field investigation. Since we're looking at Google Earth here, we'll call it a 4-foot deep ditch. And we'll call the bottom width 4 feet as well. And just to show you what we're putting in here, so this would be our trapezoid that we're filling in. So the width is our bottom width, our depth, and our side slopes, and it's going to calculate a fill area for this portion here. And then multiply it by the length to get a volume. And then we'll also check out, we're going to do a widening cut slope here for California Road. We have this, can't really see it, but there is a slope here that we will be getting into with our widening. So we will use widening cut slope. Let's take a quick measurement. So our slope width is going to be about 26 feet we'll use. We'll call it 400 feet long. Slope width, we said 26 feet. And our widening width is going to be 12 feet. And the widening width is going to be from the existing edge of pavement to the proposed edge of pavement, which you can find on the Help tab here. So you have your existing pavement widening width, so we're 12 foot wider. And it's going to calculate this for our cut area. And that's our major earthwork that we can see obviously from a quick site drive-through. So that's all we're going to do at this point for a preliminary estimate. And then we're going to move on to our curb and sidewalk. So as we said before, we have a new sidewalk going in here on the north side of Milescrip Road. This line was already calculated to be 2,310 feet long. So we're going to come here from Milescrip Road. We'll call this new sidewalk. We'll call this new curb in box widening section. We're going to be using a traversable curb here, cast in place concrete. We're going to do actual length since we used Google Earth. So on the left we'll use 2310. Whoops. And on the right, we have some notes here, I believe. So we'll have 350 feet Oh, that's actually existing to remain, so we will leave that out. So it will be 0 feet on the left, on the right. We don't have a median, so that's going to remain 0. I'm going to revise this. New curb along the sidewalk. New sidewalk, north side of mile strip road. We're going to select our road name here. We're going to have a 5-foot wide sidewalk. It's going to be concrete. We're going to have 2,310 feet on the left as determined before. And we'll include a buffer strip here. That's 5 foot wide and made of asphalt. We also happen to know that some extra isolated curb ramp replacements are going to be included in this project. That's not within our regular scope. And we'll just call it 60 curb ramps that are going to be done as a part of this work. So we'll add that in. Since those are outside of the project limits, it won't be included in our new sidewalk and curb items. So those will be accounted for differently. Let's get some guide rail and median barrier. So where we're working on this sidewalk here, we're going to say we're going to have to replace this run here and this run here. So we'll take a measurement. We'll call it 400 feet for our first run. And we do have box beam out there. Call it 2 runs. So we have 400 plus 325, which gives us 725 feet total. We'll put in 2 runs. No replacements on the right, and we do not have a median. We will have the same amount of removals though, and based on our Google Earth, it's probably not worth removing and resetting it. So we're just gonna remove it, and then we'll put a no in for remove and reset. Section H lighting. We don't have any lighting, retaining walls, or noise walls on this. So our next section is going to be drainage. So we're going to fill out our site information here. And we happen to know we're in the Dunkirk region for our IDF table. Pipe material, we're going to use plastic pipe. Terrain, we will call it rolling. And we're going to be putting this on Milestrip Road. And we're going to be putting new closed drainage in only where we're putting in new sidewalks. So we have 2,310 feet. So we're going to override this closed drainage length to 2,310. It's going to change our closed drainage area. going to have one outlet here. So it's going to calculate all of our pipe for us here. We're not doing any open drainage here. But we will add in a little bit. We'll say we're going to clean the ditch along here, about, we'll call it 1,000 feet. So we'll put in 1,000 feet for a clean, grade, and shape existing roadside section. Okay, moving on, we're not going to have any large culvert. We don't know of any utility conflicts at this point. We're not going to be impacting any overhead sign structures. So now we're going to move on to signing and pavement markings. So signing and pavement markings, this is going to be a percentage-based item. So based on our guidance here, we're going to be replacing all the signs. We do have 5 intersections within our project limits. I wouldn't necessarily call that frequent, so we'd probably land somewhere between moderate and complex. So let's make it complex for these purposes. And just real quick, we'll grab this worksheet just to check this out and look at the analysis. And we're going to see here in region 5, our upper quartile is actually closer to 10% for signing and striping, so maybe we'll do an override for this one and call it 10%. Does this project include landscaping? Yes. Landscaping intensity. We're gonna go with moderate. Moderate amount of topsoil. We know we're gonna be filling in that ditch, and we're gonna have some topsoil along the sidewalk. Might have some trees and shrubs, and we know there's a little bit of fencing out there, may or may not need replacing, so moderate's probably a good option for this one. And that falls right in the range, the middle of the Region 5 projects, so I think we'll be pretty happy with that. Moving on, we know there's going to be some stormwater involved. We've got a stream going through here. We're widening the pavement. So we're definitely going to have some form of environmental cost for this. And it's probably going to be more than a simple, we're probably going to have permanent control measures. So we'll go with moderate on this one as well. Let's take a look at Region 5 here. It tends to be low. We'll select moderate here, so that'll be okay. That's probably a good number to use. Work zone traffic control. We'll head there next. Work zone complexity. So most of this is going to be routine traffic control. We will have some intermediate to long-term traffic control patterns. So maybe we'll select moderate for this. Include nighttime operations. We're going to go with no on that. Check with regional traffic. They should be able to give you an answer on that. And we're going to add some survey operations. Let's take a look at the work zone list here first. So since the work zone has percentages based on the region already. We're not too worried about it. So we're going to be right in the middle here. And we're not using nighttime ops, so that's okay. So this project will include survey, minor reconstruction and rehabilitation projects would be simple, major highway reconstruction and rehabilitation projects not including structures, we're probably somewhere between simple and moderate, so we're gonna go with moderate for survey operations. Okay, and that gets us through the whole data entry sheet. Let's hop over to our item list tab to make sure we have appropriate unit prices. Doesn't look like there are any items that are missing a price here, which is good, so we don't have to worry about that. At this point, you could send this off to your regional estimating engineer to further refine these prices, or you could go ahead and do that yourself. One thing I do notice here is we have two different pavement sections here. So how this tool works, it will give you a different pavement section for each road based on the information you put in for the roadway, your AADT, percent trucks, also based on your region and the location. So we're just gonna, I think for our purposes here, we'll probably match mile strip road for California Road here. So we'll use this item number for top course and base course, or I'm sorry, binder, and base course. Use the same pavement section, so we have 1.5, 2.5, 5, 1.5, 2.5. We'll put 5 in here, just because it's such a small area. We'll make it consistent. If we were a little further along here, we could put in some actual pavement areas, but we're not. So we're doing this as a preliminary estimate, so we do not have those numbers right now. So I'm pretty happy with that. So you'll see we have all of the same pavement now. Just taking a quick look through, make sure everything here makes sense. Especially the bigger ticket items. Definitely want to take a look at those and make sure we have reasonable amounts for those. Then we're going to check out our Designbidbuild tab, make sure we're using appropriate percentages. Can use up to 10% here at design approval. I'm going to put the contingency maybe down to 15% since we have a pretty well-defined scope here. Just so we have it a little bit more refined. And then if you're doing a report, you can just copy this whole table right into your report. For your design approval or scoping documents. It's okay, there's going to be a few minor category inconsistencies, but per the EI, it is okay to do that. If we were looking at design build, there's a separate tab for that. Same deal, you can copy this into the reports. if you need to. So we can see up top here our total construction cost and our total project cost. And that's about it for creating your preliminary estimate. And that concludes the example project segment of the preliminary cost estimating tool training series. For additional preliminary cost estimating tool training, be sure to check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.